The next method in our pagination class is going to be called offset, public function offset, and this method will return the offset for the SQL limit clause. And limit clause starts with 0 rather than 1, same way as erase. So we are going to first check if this is first page. In other words, if we are on the first page, then return 0. Otherwise, what we need to do is to return, and within the brackets, first of all, I'm going to use this current, deduct 1 from it. So if we are on the second page, we deduct 1, this will return 2. If we are on the first page, deduct 1 is going to give us 0. But obviously, if we are on the first page, we would already return 0. So this obviously condition, this statement wouldn't be triggered at all. So it's going, this statement will only work with any page other than obviously first one. So say we're on the second page, -1, it's going to give us 1, and then multiply this by how many records per page we want to return. So per page. So let's quickly have a look at what we could potentially get here. Say we are on the second page and we want 10 records per page. So from 2, we deduct 1, which will give us 1, then multiply it by 10 records, which will give us 10. So obviously, if we're on the second page, we want to start from the 10th record. In other words, this would be 11th record within the database table because we start from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is already 10 records. And then 10 would get another lot, obviously, of 10 starting from the 11th record, in other words. So this is the offset method. Let's add some dog block here, returns integer, and get current page. Actually, it's not current page. Get, let's just say get offset. So that's the offset method. The next method we're going to add here is going to be limit. So public function limit, which will tell us how many records should we return. Offset and limit will be used with the limit clause within the SQL statement. So return simply this per page. And let's just quickly add dog blocks here as well. That returns integer and get number of records per page. The next one will be the number of pages. Also public function, it's public method. Number of pages and return this pages count. Quickly dog blocks as well, returns integer as well, and get number of pages. And after this, we are going to get to provide a method to return the instance of the request object as well, which we pass through as an argument. So public function request, return this request, because obviously all of these properties are private. We don't want anyone to be able to override them, but we provide the getters. So if we need these properties or these values associated with these properties from any other class, then we will have a simple means of doing this. So returns request and get instance of the request object. Then and the next one will be the key. So public function key, because you can specify any other key. By default, we set it to page, obviously, in a constructor, but you can call it however you want. So return this key, whatever value is associated with this property, string, and then get pagination key. Next, after the key, we are going to have a method that will actually return the URL with the given page number. So public function URL and then value, which is going to be the page number. Actually, rather than value, let's call it page number. Page number. And you can obviously use camel case here. I'm using snake case with the underscores, but feel free, obviously, to use it like this. Entirely up to you. And for this one, we are returning this request. And on this instance of the request, there is a method called a full URL with query, which is going to return the full current URL with the appended query. And the query wants to have this key, which will be associated. I'm going to type hinted here as well, sorry, typecast it here to integer the page number which we're passing through. So basically, if we have, let's say, page search, for instance, then this will append question mark, whatever key we have passed through as an argument. In our case, is going to be page, then value associated with it, page number. So if we pass, let's say 2 or something, that would be page equals 2. So that's what this would return. But it would also return the domain name and obviously the protocol and so on. So the full URL, in our case, for instance, http://search.dev, and then obviously page. We will be just under the domain, so it's going to be something like this, that this method will actually return this URL when we pass whatever ID of the page we are going to pass through as an argument. Okay, so that's what we're going to get from this method. Let's just add doc blocks for page number. Again, we are not type hinting here, so I'm just going to put mixed. It will be converted to an integer when we actually passing this as an argument to this full URL query. But whatever we pass through, it might be anything. Ideally, it should be an integer. So let's probably just put the integer here. If you're using PHP 7, obviously feel free to type hinted here and make sure reinforce the integer as the argument. Okay, then we're gonna say get URL. And that's our URL method. Now with this URL method, this URL method will be actually the method that will be called from 3 other methods within this class. First one will be previous URL, so public function previous URL, and we're going to return this URL and then this previous, whatever value is associated with the previous property. And let's quickly add doc blocks. Get previous URL. Then we're going to have public function get current URL. Actually, rather than get, let's just call it current URL. And this one will also return this URL with whatever is associated with the current property. And that will also return string. Let's say get current URL. And then the last method within this class is going to be called public function next URL. And it returns this URL, this next. So however, next page integer is associated actually with this next property. Okay, so let's just add doc blocks again and get next URL. I'm going to remove this redundant space here, and our pagination class is now completed. So next, what we're going to do is to write a few tests to make sure that obviously all these public methods return what they should when we instantiate this pagination class.